These people do not realize that they have fallen into, I would have to say, probably one of the greatest traps set by a trapper.
I'm going to let her speak on that. But to me, no.
Oh, is Kamala black, yes or no?
I share that same view.
Wow, is Kamala black, yes or no?
I heard she was. I heard she's half black and half Asian.
When I played that audio on my SiriusXM radio program on Thursday, many callers who self-identified as African-American were quick to tell me that those men were the exception, not the rule. Some described them as low-information voters, no different.
That she wasn't black. It's all over everything. She didn't have interviews. Yeah. I understand, but she already said that she's not black.
AP did not say that Kamala Harris is not black. She is biracial. She is Indian. She is black. You continue to repeat the fact that you continue to repeat the slur. I don't understand why you and the president do it, but it's clear you're not going to say that it's wrong. And you've now established that for our.
Lord have mercy.
Just going to go ahead and say that that little bit from the barbershop, that's going to be coming up a little bit later on this video, because you're going to see that these men of color are not ill-informed voters. But don't worry, we'll get to that. But what is really funny to me is watching the liberal media absolutely lose their mind, especially seeing how it is that they are now on the defensive rather than the offensive. We got a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and get to it. Before we get started and we talk about that clip, and before we talk about Charlemagne the fraud, and before we talk about George Stephanopoulos basically having a meltdown while talking to Byron Downs, what is going on here? So it wasn't that long ago that this little bit from the NABJ in Chicago went viral.
She's black.
She has always identified as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
really don't
have said?
And I did a video on said interview where I said that it would actually help the former president out this election cycle, and guess what? It is helping him out. Number one, the first thing that it did was it took the media spotlight off of Kamala Harris. Number two, the second thing that it did was it put the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, back in the spotlight. And it also made people question exactly what Kamala Harris was. People at this moment in time are confused whether she's Indian or whether she's black. Of course, in reality, she's half Indian, half Jamaican. All I have to say is that the mainstream media cycle, or the mainstream media spin, has gotten crazier and crazier and crazier. And once again, you get these crazy polls that people see that Harris is up by one, yet if you actually look at the crosstabs and you look at the actual demographics of the poll, and you actually see what YouGov stated in said poll, you'll see that they actually once again did what they always do. They oversample liberal voting groups, that right there being mostly single white women and black women, and of course black people too. It's the most loyal section to the Democratic Party, so obviously they're going to oversample these people to get her over. But then again, there may be another reason why that's happening. All I'm going to say is that the Democratic Party put this right here up on their Twitter page earlier on Sunday, and it might make you think something could in fact be afoot, but we'll talk more about that in Tuesday's video. But of course, we've got stuff to talk about in this one here. So before we go any further, the topic of whether Trump's comments at the NABJ, whether they were helpful or not, has been up for discussion. And of course, you've got some people out there who were saying that this was a bad idea, it was ill-timed, it's taken the topic, or it's changed the topic in this race. It's gotten us off the issues. However, it actually fits in quite nicely with what Trump is trying to do. If you guys remember the 2004 presidential campaign, then chances are you know where I'm about to go with this. Well, the thing that the Bush campaign did so very effectively against John Kerry was they utilized his past flip-flops. And of course, if a person is going to flip-flop on policy like Kamala Harris has done on several occasions, you know, when you actually look into it, seeing how it is that she's kind of flip-flopping on a race, she was Indian 3 weeks ago, she's black today, it shouldn't surprise anybody that this person can't stay consistent, which indicates that this person is in fact fake. You see, if there's something that the American people hate more than anything, they hate somebody that's fake. And right now at this moment in time, the mainstream media, the fake stream media, whatever you might want to call it, is defending somebody who's fake, running complete total cover for that person. And of course, people have picked up on it. I mean, think about it really quick. Given all of her flip-flops, should anybody be surprised that this woman here
has been doing a lot of active outreach around to South Asians, around the API in general, and will continue to do it. I mean, what we know in particular when you're talking about the South Asian community, we're talking about the Indian community more specifically, it is a growing community in the United States in terms of its voting bloc, in terms of its participation, and I think the party knows that and knows that this is part of our collective community, and there needs to be outreach and inclusion.
And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Knock wood.
We're going to cook today.
Okay.
Is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are Indian.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about.
is now suddenly abandoning her Indian heritage to say that she's black. I mean, I'm not surprised. I told you this type of crap would in fact happen. But then again, though, there are also a lot of people out there who are in fact tribal, are looking at this and saying, no, this person is not black.
I agree with that, but is she African American? No. But is she African American? There's a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is trying to take anything away from her.
Let's go down into her lineage.
I think you're falling into a trap of that. All she had to do was say, I am black, but I'm not African American. That's it.
Don, I'm not falling in a trap. I'm not falling in. Let me finish. Hold on. I'm not falling into a trap by that. When she goes down her lineage, many Africans landed in Jamaica.
That right there came from Richard Barris's channel, The People's Pundit. I advise you guys go check him out. He's pretty daggone good, especially when it comes to live streams. He's always full of very, very, very good points. And of course, he's also a very, very calm voice at this moment in time, or very, very realistic voice as far as when it comes to dealing with the mainstream media and the fake polls. By the way, he's calling +6 Harris polls coming out real soon. I personally think that will happen after the Democratic National Convention, but like I may have already said before, we're going to talk more about polls and what's going on there on Tuesday afternoon. I'm probably going to use the medium of what was said the other day on TYT, because even they can kind of sort of see the writing on the wall. But still, the fact of the matter is this right here. People are obviously asking the questions. Was it a good idea to basically go to the NABJ and basically say what he said? That right there being Trump, pointing out the fact that Kamala Harris obviously does not respect either race, because she claims to be black or half black, of course, but she was running as somebody who was Indian when she ran for the Senate, and of course she prides that part there too. So obviously it's a pretty legitimate thing to ask. I mean, what the hell is the deal? Are you flip-flopping once again? However, Barris did say something else too that I think is very important. Let's roll this bit.
Let Don Lemon handle that stuff. Let the new people in media handle that stuff. Let your surrogates handle that stuff. You stick to women getting their ass kicked by men because Democrats are sick in the head. Or not even. I mean, it's not they're sick in the head and Democrats are allowing it. They support this. Like a 70% consensus issue isn't good enough for you or something? Stick to that. And by the way, Donald Trump is still favored to win this election. I should have just opened up with this.
I agree. It should be the pundits who are primarily doing this. But guess what? It is, for the most part, the pundits who are having this conversation, which means that these people obviously fell for the trap that Trump set. I haven't seen the trap get set so well. I haven't seen people fall for that trap so well. It's almost like the words that Don Jr. said at the Republican National Convention earlier this year when he was asked about his dad right after the assassination attempt. It's almost like what he said. These people can't help themselves is exactly what happened here. These people really and truly cannot help themselves. And of course, you guys will see here in a minute that there are other things that these people, quite frankly, cannot help themselves when it comes to blaming you for what it is that they are guilty of. Enter Charlemagne the Fraud. So Charlemagne the Fraud, he went on CNN again to basically basically go out of his way to tell everybody that Donald Trump is, of course, being racist again, and he doesn't deserve any credit for going to the NABJ, even though Kamala Harris is not going to be up there except through Skype or Zoom here real soon, basically walking into the snake pit, taking on the mean, nasty reporters, and even making a lot of them even laugh in the process and agree with him, because he was talking about the issues too. If you watch the actual full thing, you'll notice that he was talking about the border and all the other areas where Kamala Harris has been an embarrassing failure at. But the point is this right here. We obviously have people like Charlemagne out there, and obviously we got to make fun of them when they are wrong about something and point out where it is they got it wrong, like right here.
Yeah. So today, though, you talk about it. You tackled it on your show because it's out there. People are talking about it. One of your callers actually called in and said something about it that I wanted to play for everyone so you could explain sort of how this makes you think and feel. Here's the caller.
Man, to be honest, Kamala Harris, she already said that she wasn't black. It's all over everything. She done had interviews. Yeah.
Can you run that a little bit again?
And to be honest, Kamala Harris, she already said that she wasn't black. It's all over everything. She done had interviews. Yeah.
I told you guys that they were going to go out of their way to basically correct anybody and everybody for mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. They were going to say that it was racist. They were going to say that if you point out that she's a diversity hire, which, by the way, these people are suddenly not proud of, they can't actually defend. Yeah, they're going to go out of their way to say that it's racist. But I really love how it was that caller came back on him, was like, yeah. Let's watch the rest of the exchange.
That she wasn't black. It's all over everything. She done had interviews. Yeah. I understand. But she already said that she's not black. She identifies as an Indian. But she was running and she did all of that in California. Yes, she has.
No, she hasn't.
Yes, she has.
Listen, have you ever read her book?
No, I don't read. I won't. Say what now?
In her book, she specifically talks about how, her mom definitely instilled her Indian heritage in her, but also told her she was a black woman and raised her to be a proud black woman.
They have an interview. She has a verbal interview with a white woman, and she says that she is not black. She is Indian.
Lord have mercy.
So what do you do about that?
Do you guys remember at the very beginning of the video with the CNN commentator basically saying that they talked to black voters and they said that they were all ill-informed or non-informed voters? Do you guys remember that segment there? Well, obviously the guy who was talking to Charlemagne the Fraud, obviously he was pretty daggone well-informed, probably because he's seen, I don't know, stuff like this.
In her book, Harris says, "There is no title or honor on earth I'll treasure more than to say I am Shamla Gopalan Harris's daughter." Harris's visits to India with her mother kept her connected to her roots. Her grandfather, who had strong views on humanitarian issues, worked closely with officials to reallocate refugees. Their conversations had a strong influence on her.
Those walks along the beach.
Which coincidentally CNN aired, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there before we go any further. It could be the photos. It could be all the Judge Joe Brown. It could be all that stuff, or the fact that she pumped up the Indian heritage back in 2019 before then all of a sudden getting some traction and then pretending to be black. And of course, there was the whole thing where she basically accused Joe Biden of being a racist. And they had this whole crap with busing, that type of stuff there, when in reality, she was actually raised in California from the time that she was a kindergarten student all the way to the 12th grade before she then went to Howard. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the woman's past in video number 2. The fact of the matter is that the voter is not ill-informed, and this right here should tell you that the voter not being ill-informed, which by the way is the normal voter that the Democrat gets every single election cycle, is beginning to piss these people off, which is where we enter the ultimate white liberal, George Stephanopoulos. Now, I say ultimate white liberal because obviously he shields for the Democratic Party. I mean, he was a part of the Clinton campaign, and if you know who George Stephanopoulos is, then you'll know how dirty he is. You'll know what type of person he really and truly is. I'm not going to throw any names out there, even though I obviously want to, but he had Byron Donalds on this weekend, and I think that what Byron Donalds was able to do is exactly what you're going to to see Republicans doing probably all the way till Election Day, because at this moment in time, the mainstream media is playing defense rather than offense. And you know what? That's a good thing. Now, before we look at this, I want to go ahead and say this before we go any further. The Democratic Party has been playing the race card. They've been playing identity politics since probably post-2008. They didn't really run on identity politics in 2008. And that there's probably because they knew that it was the ultimate way of getting Obama elected. And then, of course, Obama, once he got in office, he basically played the race card every chance he could get. And then next thing you know, they leaned into identity politics going into 2012. And then they re-leaned into it from 2013 to 2016 when he was in office. And then they leaned into identity politics for the 2016 presidential election. And then they played it on steroids to the point to where the people themselves have absolutely had enough of it. Now, I can see why it is some people would be upset with Trump for bringing that up. But pay very close attention to how everything is said in this by George Stephanopoulos, because it almost looks like he's trying to force Byron Downs into a struggle session or something. Let's watch.
You just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer.
One of the main reasons why it is that you can't have a conversation with people like Stephanopoulos, because they're obviously looking for gotcha moments and they're obviously trying to interrupt you. I really love how it is that Byron's trying to get back to the subject at hand. Now, the full segment is roughly 5 minutes and 2 seconds, but I want to focus primarily on the 3 minutes and 33 seconds, of which, by the way, you guys just saw about 40 seconds of it. And I want you guys to see that this is exactly what these people are going to do. And of course, they think that obviously the fact that they're in the defensive position, they think that obviously they're going to need to play offense. The problem is that their offense at this moment in time is just getting swatted away like it's absolutely nothing, as you guys will continue to see Byron do.
Talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people.
He's not lying. If you get anything out of that 1 minute and 1 second segment, you can get that out of there, that the Associated Press, they were the ones who first reported on her being Indian, not black. It wasn't just the Associated Press. It was several other news outlets reported this after she won her Senate seat. They even reported this when she became the Attorney General of San Francisco, District Attorney of San Francisco. She was even Attorney General at one point in time. But we'll be discussing that a lot more and much further in video number 3 that's going to be coming out this week, which, by the way, will be out on Tuesday because I got 4 videos to put out in 2 days. The fact of the matter is that the media at this moment in time is playing defense, and the strikes that they're throwing back at their Republican or conservative opposition, these strikes just aren't landing, or they're landing like a wet noodle. But, I mean, as you guys will see, that's what's going on here with George Stephanopoulos, because obviously he's doing everything he can to try to clamp down the whole Republicans are racist crap. And, of course, it's not working because Byron is just a little bit too skilled for him. Let's keep watching.
To the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people, or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe. Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it doesn't matter, I don't understand why you keep on repeating it, why the president keeps on repeating it, why those introducing the president yesterday
George,
keep on
actually,
repeating
I'm
it.
not the one who keeps repeating it. George, you're the one that's bringing it up now.
Correct, 100%. George Stephanopoulos is the one who keeps on bringing it up. You see, people hate the media, and they especially are starting to hate the dishonest liberal media. They don't like Fox News either, but people hate the media. George Stephanopoulos is just an example of what it is that people cannot stand. It's like a failed struggle session, but there is one more thing to drop that we'll get to at the end of the video, which kind of further solidifies exactly how these people really and truly think and feel and how lazy they are. We'll get to that in a second. Let's watch this last part.
Up now, that's
you've done it, sir. You've done it. You've done it 3 times. Every single answer you gave me. Now let me finish, sir.
George,
every single answer you gave, you repeated the slur.
Asked me, George. That's why I'm pushing back on you now. George, you asked me the question 3 times. I responded, but I'm
and every single time you repeat the slur. That is exactly my point. You simply can't say that it's wrong.
George, so then what you're saying, and I want to get off this topic because it's not the only thing that's going on. But George, now you're saying that AP is the one that slurred Kamala Harris, because those are the facts. You can go to the internet and look at the clips, George, if you want to, or we can talk about this now. I prefer to talk about the future of our country, because the American people are struggling. The American people do need serious policy decisions to be made, and they need serious leadership on the world stage.
Basically what happened here was that George Stephanopoulos tried to put Byron Downs in some form of struggle session, trying to get him to answer a question that, quite frankly, Byron Downs was not going to answer, because Byron Downs cares about the issues, and now you guys can see that the media cares more about race, and once again, that right there is going to turn off people who just want to actually focus in on the issues and take care of things, which, by the way, you're going to see Trump begin to pivot to that here very, very soon, because that was obviously a part of the plan. Get the media talking about this crap so that way they can fight with the pundits over and over again, and our very, very smart conservative pundits can basically slap around their idiotic liberal pundits, and the mainstream media, of course, will once again be on the defensive. Meanwhile, Trump begins to talk about the issues. But speaking of the issues, and speaking of failed struggle sessions, that clip from the very, very beginning of the video, that clip from the very beginning of this video here, and I also talked about how it was that these men seem to be very, very informed. You guys are seeing it here in the B-roll footage. I played it for you guys earlier. I don't think I have to play it again, but let me tell you what's so amazing about said clip. That 45 seconds that you guys saw at the very beginning of the video from that barbershop is a part of a 46-minute long interview that I'll try to link in the description box, or I will at least link Black Conservative Perspectives reaction to it, because there's actually a lot more that was discussed than what you guys saw. The barber talked about how it was that he had heard about employees, how diverse it was at Trump Tower, the Trump organization. And at the end of the interview, he basically told the guy who was asking the question he planned on voting for RFK. When asking the other 3 young black males who they were voting for, all 3 of them said, you know what, we're probably going to stay out of the election, but, you know, we don't really intend on voting for what's in office right now. Or they basically told you they weren't voting for Kamala. They didn't say they were voting for Trump either. They basically said no to him too. They typically tend to lean a little bit more third party. They probably got other things on their mind that's going to decide their vote. But CNN was so smug not to actually show more of the segments so that way people could actually see what was going on, to give their audience the opportunity, or possibly even give other Democrats an opportunity to change their mind. That's how smug these people are. They were willing to go ahead and attack those young men at the very beginning of the video because they did not say Kamala Harris right away, or they did not agree with the narrative that she was black. These people cannot help themselves, and because these people cannot help themselves, they fell into, quite frankly, one of the greatest laid traps ever set in the world of U.S. political history, whichever one you want to use. Either way, though, the media is on the defensive, and guess what? If you're on the defensive, you are losing. Also, to go on top of this, it forces these people to defend the disastrous DEI policies that, quite frankly, they at one point in time championed, which now, of course, you're about to see them start to want to run from. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. With that right there being said, guys, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. There will be another video coming out a little bit later on this afternoon, kind of the second part of reacting to the Judge Joe Brown interview. And of course, to go on top of that, there's also the other video coming out about Kamala Harris's prosecutorial past and all the prosecutorial misconduct that she had. That video right there will be coming out Tuesday with a video on what's going on with the polls. So please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.